and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Now, Joe Biden, somehow, in this crazy world, gave a commencement address to Howard University to appeal to black voters. And he made an interesting statement. You know, he gave one of his long-winded speeches about standing up against white supremacy. The thing is, I find it hypocritical because Joe Biden has, well, a very sketchy track record when it comes down to, you know, helping out black voters, Latino voters. Hell, you know, during the height of the civil rights movement, he wasn't marching with civil rights protesters. He was against them. He was working with Republican segregationists. He was against busing and desegregation. He didn't want his white kids mixed in with black kids. This is the truth. And this might traumatize Vote Blue no matter who, people. But here, let's listen to Joe Biden's little fantastic speech. So that way all of you get to hear it too. But don't worry, I got a counter video. Here's his fantastic speech.
We know that American history has not always been a fairy tale. From the start, it's been a constant push and pull for more than 240 years. Between the best of us, the American ideal that we're all created equal, and the worst of us, a harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. We can finally resolve those ongoing questions about who we are as a nation. That puts strength of our diversity at the center of American life. The future.
As someone who's witnessed dementia, he exhibits all the signs of it. He exhibits through his facial feature, through his movements. He's not all there. He's in cognitive decline, folks. This is very sad to see. And yet, it's interesting how he has forgotten his past. But I want to pull this up here because there was a brave student. There were a couple of brave students who said this. He's taking the vote for granted, some students say. Again, the administration has kept a close relation with the university since taking office. Vice President Kamala Harris chose the university as the venue for her first 2024 campaign speech that focused on reproductive rights, even though it died under the Biden-Harris administration. Roe v. Wade died under the Biden-Harris administration. In January, Howard became the first HBCU partner with the Department of Defense, receiving $12 million annual grant over a 5-year span for a research lab. Interesting. On Saturday, Howard granted Biden an honorary doctorate of letters degree. Honorary doctor. I want to be an honorary doctor. In introductory remarks, the university president, Wayne A.I. Frederick, described Biden as a favorite son of the capstone, with an unmatched record for justice, empowerment, and peaceful advancement of humanity. This guy, I want you to remember that quote when I pull up the next video. But not all of the Howard community shares the praise for the president. As Biden spoke, about a dozen students stood up with signs in a protest of his appearance. In a letter shared with press, the students said that they were infinitely angered and exhausted by the many forms of ongoing white supremacist violence in the U.S. The group, represented by the president of the local NAACP chapter, called on Biden to do more than just ask for investigation and observe our struggle. I just feel like I'm not being helped. He's taking the vote for granted, as one Howard student put it to the New York Times on Saturday. Without a Democratic challenger, what, really? Biden is banking on 2024 election, once again becoming a second referendum on what he's taken on calling MAGA extremists. Now, again, the thing is, there are Democratic challengers, Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., NPR. But again, look, I want to pull up this article here as well. During Joe Biden's Howard University, this is from the Daily Beast. During Joe Biden's Howard University commencement address Saturday morning, a handful of graduates protested at the president and his administration. A total of 12 students, some holding up signs, held a silent protest. Turn your back on Biden, one sign read. DOD research is complicit in Department of Defense research is complicit in imperialism. Another student held his graduation cap said, Biden and Harris don't care about black people. The graduates who didn't hold signs turned their backs on the president. As for Biden, he was honored with an honorary Doctor of Letters degree. So let's talk about Biden's track record. Let's talk about who he is as a president. Let's talk about what he represents. Now, the video I'm going to be playing is from TRT World, and it's a video segment that goes into detail about, well, where Biden was during the civil rights movement, where he stands on the issues, Biden's real record on race. It's not pretty. So if you vote blue no matter who, turn away. Turn away, lovely. It's going to trigger you.
Recently signed off on Juneteenth as a national holiday in the U.S. The recognition of the holiday, which commemorates the end of slavery in the U.S., has been celebrated as a major symbolic shift away from the rhetoric of the Trump era. But many have forgotten this moment during the 2019 Democratic primary.
And I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden. I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding.
Now, look, there's that cuck Bernie right there in the middle. Remember this moment when Kamala called him out? Remember that?
Common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in...
Now, this is a lie, because she was not that little girl. Fact-checking already proved that... No, Kamala. You're lying, Kamala.
California, who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Liar.
Despite insisting that she wasn't calling Biden racist, Harris was in fact accusing him of preventing black students from integrating into white schools, and of being friends with openly racist politicians. So, what is Joe Biden's real record on race? Harris wasn't inaccurate in her criticism of Biden, who has a checkered history on racial justice, despite painting himself as a staunch civil rights advocate over the years. Perhaps one of the most criticized moments in Biden's past is his involvement in the creation of the notorious 1994 crime bill. People forget that the informal name for the bill was Biden's crime law.
So again, that bill is what helped boost the prison industrial complex and make it into the nightmare that we know today. And it's funny when even Bill Clinton apologizes for it, kind of, and Joe Biden has yet to ever apologize for it.
Legislation is widely criticized for being responsible for making the effects of mass incarceration in the U.S. exponentially worse. Biden was also a key architect of the devastating Iraq War. Responsibility for the war is often blamed on George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and other Republicans. But in reality, Biden played a key role as a Democrat. In the lead-up to the war, Biden convened a series of Senate hearings to drum up support for the invasion on the basis of flimsy intelligence material being presented by the Republicans.
What is the threat from Iraq? Obviously, to fully answer this question will require us to have additional and closed hearings.
Not a single anti-war voice was invited to the hearings. Biden also admits to having been civil with Democratic colleagues who were openly racist.
Hey, Bernie Sanders. This is your good friend, right? Your good friend, Joe? Your friend, your pal, Bernie? Hey, Bernie, this is your friend, Joe. Your good friend, Joe.
Like James Eastland, who had a long history of racist remarks, including that black Americans belonged to an inferior race. As well as the segregationist Herman Talmadge, who vigorously opposed school integration.
Governor, this means, in effect, that your state would set up a private school system. We intend to maintain separate schools in Georgia, one way or another, come what may.
Biden also developed a decades-long friendship with segregationist Strom Thurmond, who he worked with attempting to pass the Biden-Thurmond...
Oh, yes. Strom Thurmond. He gave a eulogy. Hey, vote blue no matter who. Where's all that? Biden cares about us. The mental gymnastics that go in the minds of diehard vote blue no matter who people. It is so lovely to laugh at them.
Violent Crime Control Act in 1991. Biden also spoke at his funeral.
We became good friends. I'm not sure exactly why or how it happened, Nancy.
Nancy? Nancy Pelosi, are you there? Or is he talking to another Nancy?
No, we did.
In the lead up to the 2008 election, Biden was also in the spotlight for a number of comments, including referring to Barack Obama as articulate and clean, and associating Indian immigrants with Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Eleven chains.
Huh. Huh. Look at that. Look at that. Vote blue no matter who. Isn't it interesting what happens when you go back in the time machine?
Do these gaffes or misunderstandings, or however you would characterize them, indicate you're uncomfortable talking about race, or are people just being too sensitive?
I think that I have my whole career. I got involved in public policy. I got involved in politics because of the civil rights movement.
Biden also has an unreliable history surrounding his own involvement in the civil rights struggle. He has...
Now, again, Biden was against the civil rights movement, okay? Whereas Bernie, he was getting arrested. Hey, Bernie, your friend, Joe Biden, was against the civil rights movement.
At times claimed to have been deeply involved. At other times, not that active. And in the lead up to the 2020 election, once again claimed to have been heavily involved. He was also caught out claiming to have been arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador. And
no, that didn't happen. Even his campaign staff had to tell him, stop telling that story.
The streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
You now say you weren't arrested and it didn't happen in Soweto.
I mean, again, look at that face. Again, look, this is a guy who just doesn't have anything happening up there.
You were at the airport in Johannesburg and you were stopped from going through the door for blacks. I guess the question is, were you confused or were you just trying to embellish a story?
Offered the chance to run with Biden in 2020.
Hey, look, here's everyone's favorite joker, Kamala. This is how you know it's, again, two professional liars who don't like each other are running this country. And Kamala making that big old statement, and now she's the VP. You're about to witness, again, that uncomfortable laugh. Tulsi Gabbard's right in regards to Kamala Harris laughing. You know, it's a nervous tick. Kamala's hiding something. She's scared. That's why she laughs, to try and break the ice, but it's so inappropriate. Hang on. You're about to witness lying in classic form.
Kamala Harris's once scathing criticisms about race faded away, and the two have worked closely since winning the election.
I believe you that you're fully supportive of him. How does that transition happen? How do you go from being such a passionate opponent on such bedrock principles for you, and now you guys seem to be pals?
Get ready for the most infamous words in history. 3 words. Oh, 4 words to be more precise. 4 words. Listen closely, my lovelies.
It was a debate.
Not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
So you don't mean it.
It was a debate. That the whole reason, literally, it was a debate.
So in other words, yeah, again, it was a debate. It was a debate.
It was called a debate.
I understand.
Traveled to the debate. There were journalists there covering the debate.
Why are you laughing? Why? Nothing that you're saying is funny. Tulsi Gabbard's assessment on her is correct, and I am so glad that Tulsi Gabbard smacked her around during those 2 primary debates. God, I'd love to go back in time and watch them, but thankfully, you know, you can still see the experience on YouTube. So there you go. So you can just look that up. But again, she's laughing. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing, you clown? Why?
Where there would be a debate of differences of opinion and issues. I am 1000% supportive of Joe Biden, and I will again do everything I can to make sure he is elected.
The Democrats may be keen to forget Biden's past, But should everyone else have to as well?
Again, fantastic work. And again, this video is actually 1 year old. It's 1 year old. It came out on June 30th of 2021. And you could find that link in the show notes. So, how do we end this? How do we end this about President Joe Biden? Well, we know he's a habitual liar. He's a career politician who's worked with people in the two-party system, Democrats and Republicans. He's been a neoliberal. He's been on the wrong side of history for a very long time. And the thing is, vote blue no matter who, this is your guy. So how else should we end this segment about Joe Biden, especially with his commencement speech at Howard University? Well, you can look at the speech as a whole, or you can just caption this moment. And yes, does this make me a bad person for laughing at this? Because again, it looks odd. But can you imagine being that person sitting next to Biden and watch him do this? Now, I don't know if he's scratching himself or jacking it. I don't know. I'll leave it up to all of you, because all of you are the real heroes. And I encourage all of you to break away from the two-party system. But let's at least enjoy the awkward moment that was caught on camera.
Growing up, I had the privilege of living overseas and experiencing many different cultures and experiences. And while I forever cherish those experiences, it was not always easy to navigate relationships and find my place. However, once I walked through the doors of Chauncey I. Cooper Hall and saw all the other students with the same desire to excel, I knew I was on the right path. I knew I'd found my place.
We're going to play that again. No, he's probably maybe scratching his stomach or his side, but just the way he just casually just lifts up his robe. Just, you don't know. You don't know what he's doing. But there's a time and place to scratch yourself. Sometimes you got to have the discipline not to scratch. But this guy right here, he's probably seeing this in the corner of his eye saying, "Dear Lord, what is he doing?"
Growing up, I had the privilege of living overseas and experiencing many different cultures and experiences. And while I forever cherish those experiences, it was not always easy to navigate relationships and find my place. However, once I walked through the doors of Chauncey I. Cooper,
I like how he just grabs his chin and just thinking, "Oh, dear Lord, what is this man doing next to me?"
Hall and saw all the other students with the same desire to excel, I knew I was on the right path. I knew I'd found my...
Hey, everybody, that's the president of the free world. President Joe 30330. The president of, get this, these United States. I said this election cycle is going to be funny, but we got to shift through the lies. We got to look through them and realize that the whole system is designed to keep us in the dark. Break away from the two-party system and stay tuned to Hard Lens Media, because we got a lot more to cover, and this election cycle is only getting started. I can't wait for the rest of it.